brother! Boy, howdy, do we have a good one for y'all today. Jay and I here at SuperCarlinBrothers have long believed that if there was one character that we needed so much more of, it's Barty Crouch Jr.
Barty Crouch Jr.
We never get a really clear idea of what this guy would be up to if he was just able to exist as one of Voldemort's key henchmen, and really seems like the most ideal bookend alongside Bellatrix. And that's because Barty Crouch Jr. is smart as heck. Like, he successfully flies under Dumbledore's crooked nose for an entire school year, disguised as one of Dumbledore's own closest allies. An ally that he was able to overtake in the first place, despite Moody being one of, if not the biggest and baddest Aurors on the block. He's still Moody on the block. The song everybody really wants to hear. Barty Jr. just seemed prime to cause chaos in the years to come. I mean, he did it already for an entire year in complete disguise. Then what? Dementor's kiss? Just like that? That's his whole fate. And it happens off page, no less? Come on, let us in on that scene. Like, what freaking gives? Well, I will tell you what gives. I think this was all a very elaborate setup, and it's all a matter of perspective. Either we wasted what this guy could have done in the main story, or, and this is where you've got to stick with me, or he was parked. Because remember, he's not dead. He wasn't to be defeated alongside Voldemort. Not in the slightest. Barty Crouch Jr. isn't something of the past. He is the Dark Lord of tomorrow. Today, I'll break it down. Hey, brother! Okay, so if you've been a fan of this channel for very long, you probably know that we obsess over the history of the wizarding world and would love to see nothing more than a backstory of the Hogwarts founders themselves. But something we spend less time talking about is the future, probably because, you know, this exists, and we don't typically really accept it. Good show, though, if you've never been, and Tom Felton is coming back to play Draco in November. But over on our podcast, Through the Gryffindor, we are working our way through Goblet of Fire when we stumbled across something that just feels like it has its own gravity. A line of breadcrumbs that leads me to believe there could have been something else planned further on down the line. Something that could have brought Harry, Ron, and Hermione back together to face down the newest threat to the greater wizarding world. And it all has to do with Barty Crouch Jr. Barty J, as I like to call him, is really interesting because he is super powerful and instrumental in the events that lead to the return of Voldemort and then just very, very quickly exits. Never seen nor really brought up again. And yet, he doesn't really die either. At the end of Goblet of Fire, one of the Dementors finds him and performs the Dementor's kiss, sucking out his soul and leaving him as an empty husk. A fate, according to Lupin, that is much worse than death. Much worse than that. You can exist without your soul, you know, as long as your brain and your heart are still working. But you'll have no sense of self anymore. No memory, no anything. There's no chance at all of recovery. You'll just exist as an empty shell, and your soul is gone forever. Lost. I think Lupin might be wrong. Not that it's a fate worse than death, but that there is no chance of recovery. Now, certainly you cannot get your soul back from the Dementor. They don't do returns. But what if, let's say, you had your soul split? Let's see, is there any bit of dark magic that we know of that involves splitting and hiding a bit of your soul somewhere else? Isn't it hilarious that, like, literally in any other context that might be a trivia question, but within this community, it's literally rhetorical. So just quick pat on the back for all of those present. The obvious answer is, of course, yes, Horcruxes. Did Barty Crouch Jr. make a Horcrux? And if so, what was it and where is it? Well, the great news is that because I think this was almost the intended setup, we get all of that information. So first things first, in order to make a Horcrux, we know that you have to kill somebody. And let me just check my notes here. And yes, we do have a known victim of Barty Crouch Jr., one Mr. Barty Crouch Sr., a fact that he is very proud of. The Dark Lord and I said Moody, and he looked completely insane now, towering over Harry, leering down at him. Have much in common. Both of us, for instance, had very disappointing fathers. Very disappointing indeed. Both of us suffered the indignity, Harry, of being named after those fathers. And both of us had the pleasure, the very great pleasure, of killing our fathers to ensure the continued rise of the Dark Order. Never really call it the Dark Order ever again, do they? Isn't even that paragraph suddenly more telling, listing out all of the similarities of Voldemort and Barty Crouch, as if he's being set up to be the next Dark Lord later on? Indeed. But the important thing is the only person we know him to have killed is his father. So, if he made a Horcrux, he had to do it pretty quickly and use only what he had on him at the time. And I'd say that there are two pretty fairly important artifacts on him at the time. The Marauder's Map or Moody's Eye. And let me just say, I don't think it's the map. It's the eye. The very symbol, trophy even, of his most evil act. A page right out of Big V's book. And he's not done reading from that book. Let me assure you. Here's where the breadcrumbs come in. For one, the day after Harry encounters Barty Sr. in the woods, Moody/Barty Crouch Jr. looks exhausted. When the bell finally rang, they hurried out into the corridors toward the dark arts classroom and found Professor Moody leaving it. He looked as tired as they felt. The eyelid of his normal eye was drooping, giving his face an even more lopsided appearance than usual. The in-universe explanation is that he was up all night looking for Barty Crouch Sr. This works great because we, the reader, are still under the illusion that this is just the real Moody. The thing is, Barty J knows there is no one to find. He's already killed his father. Why is he so exhausted? Because he spent the night creating a Horcrux following what very well may have been his first ever kill. First, because we know that Barty J was a Death Eater, but he was caught as a very young boy for torturing the Longbottoms, and then basically imprisoned either in Azkaban or under his father, all the way up until pretty much right now. And also, note what he does with the body of his father in order to hide it. When everyone was gone, I transfigured my father's body. He became a bone. I buried it, while wearing the invisibility cloak in the freshly dug earth in front of Hagrid's cabin. I always thought this inclusion and the fact that he turned him into a bone was so random. Like, of all things, that's what you turned him into? And who cares if it's freshly dug earth? Can't you just dig a hole with magic in, like, seconds? Isn't that part of why it's so significant that Harry digs Dobby's grave later on? Well, remember how I said he wasn't done reading from Voldemort's book? Well, this is more of it, because as we will learn in a few chapters, Voldemort is concocting a potion to resurrect his body, which includes 3 key ingredients: flesh of the servant, blood of the enemy, and bone of the father unknowingly given. Barty Crouch Jr. is one of 3 people, including Voldemort, in on this plan. He knows the ingredients. His job the whole year is to procure the blood of the enemy. That's the point of the whole book. Barty J is setting for himself the same failsafes Voldemort is about to use. That's why he turns his father into a bone, in case he ever needs to regenerate his body, which he would only need to do if he already made a Horcrux. Boom! As for burying it in front of Hagrid's house, that's not a matter of convenience. It's so that we, the readers, know exactly where the bone is, so that it can be called upon later. And it only gets better, because then as we speed forward to the Order of the Phoenix, we get another really interesting piece of information about Moody's eye. We're not discussing anything here. It's too risky, said Moody, turning his normal eye on Harry. His magical eye remained pointing up at the ceiling. He added angrily, putting a hand up to his magical eye. It keeps sticking, ever since that scum wore it. And with a nasty squelching sound, more like a plunger being pulled from a sink, he popped out his eye. Okay, for clarity, he doesn't say but we're family friendly in these parts, okay? And this is a callback, obviously, to the fact that Moody was held prisoner and someone impersonated him for an entire year. But also, it's not like the eye was existing anywhere unusual. It was in his own polyjuiced face. The disruption to its efficacy isn't someone else wearing it, it's something else in it. Namely, a piece of soul. Then from there, it just continues. If we fast forward again to the Battle of the Seven Potters, we of course know that the Death Eaters assume that the real Harry would be traveling with the toughest of the lot, Moody, and he is attacked and killed. Apparently without much of a fight as well. I wouldn't have put it past the eye to have slowed the real Moody down a bit here to give Voldemort an edge. He does, after all, get hit full in the face. But even still, that's not the last we see of the eye, is it? It comes back in roaring fashion later when Harry and company break into the Ministry of Magic and discover that Mad Eye's eye has been taken from him and been affixed to Umbridge's office door. The extreme irony here, if we are correct, would be that Umbridge was in active possession of 2 Horcruxes at once. The locket that the trio is there to steal, and also the eye. Both of which I can't help but feel like would somehow power her up, which makes me shudder just to think about. Like, how fitting that the other most evil character is carrying Horcruxes from both of the other most dangerous characters. But then, even more ironic, is that both of them will be stolen from her on this same day as the trio escapes the Ministry. But they don't get to go back to Grimmauld Place like they want to, do they? No. They get caught and have to find a new hiding place. The first place Hermione can think of. In the woods, where they had the Quidditch World Cup, said Hermione. I wanted somewhere enclosed, undercover, and this was the first place you thought of, Harry finished her, glancing around at the apparently deserted glade. Hermione is thinking on her feet here, but you know who else is really good at thinking on their feet? Barty Crouch Jr. And you know what's really unique about the woods of the Quidditch World Cup as it pertains to Barty Crouch Jr.?
More murder!
Yeah, it's where he breaks free and casts the Dark Mark. Maybe it's not Hermione picking this place at random. Maybe it's Hermione being influenced to this place in particular. It's not even where they set up their tents back at the Quidditch World Cup. It's in the clearing in the woods where they were after the match. But she broke off abruptly and looked over her shoulder. Harry and Ron looked quickly around too. It sounded as though someone was staggering towards their clearing. It's literally where they were when they first heard him cast the Dark Mark, because that's who's staggering towards them. And then, what happens the next morning at this particular location? Early next morning, before the other two were awake, Harry left the tent to search the woods around them for the oldest, most gnarled and resilient-looking tree he could find. There, in its shadow, he buried Mad-Eye Moody's eye and marked the spot by gouging a small cross in the bark with his wand. So, what we are left with is the incredibly cunning Barty Crouch Jr., who just a month before receiving the Dementor's kiss, commits his first ever kill on who? His own father. He turns him into a bone to regenerate, if needed, just like his master, because he just made a Horcrux. Moody can't seem to get his eye right after Barty J used it for an entire year because it has a piece of soul in it. Then, Moody's eye, aka Barty Crouch Jr.'s soul, ends up getting buried exactly where Harry first encountered the character. While the man himself is left a soulless husk who can't die, it's simply too perfect, you guys. We are given the locations of every piece in play for this to happen. It feels so much like he was being set up to be a new Dark Lord in the future. But then that never panned out, and the plot was left abandoned on the cutting room floor. I can't even tell you how, as we were writing this and talking about it with like everybody here at the office, how it just felt like it kept fitting together better and better. There was so much left, so much opportunity to potentially bring back this huge, big, bad villain with like the Crouch heritage, the 12 of new OWLs. There's so much that he could have done. He would have been so powerful, so deadly, so maniacal. Gosh, and to make it even darker, Harry might be the only living person who knows where all of the pieces are, which means Harry himself might be the reason that he has to come back in the first place. Oh my gosh, and if you want to make it even crazier, just think about this. We have the bone of the father. The blood of the enemy is, of course, going to be Harry, and flesh of the servant. Who could that possibly be other than Winky? She never gives up on him. She would totally do it. Oh no. I can just see the trailer for it now. Guys, what are your thoughts? Let me know in the towel section down below. By the way, I don't think there is anybody who could play older Barty Crouch Jr. better than Andrew Scott. If you don't believe me, just go watch the BBC Sherlock series. It is amazing. But guys, as always, thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode. Be sure to like this video if you haven't already and subscribe so you don't miss any future Harry Potter action from us. If you'd like to see us explain the origins of Moody's eye and how it became so powerful, you can do so right over here. But otherwise, until next time, Bye! And don't forget to eat cheese.